Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, hope everyone is doing okay today. It's 11:03 on a Friday. Yes, Friday. Week is almost done. We're in a peculiar set of events, or a peculiar set of occurrences right now. If there's any civilization that comes back to this particular point, something is looking back, figuring out what took place in a dig this video out the rubble. Yes, it's a strange scenario, what's unfolding. Propaganda. People think propaganda is just for Nazis or just for Soviets. No, propaganda, you're ensconced in it. When Marvin Gaye is singing about, I just want to make love to you and I just want to feel your body, and he's talking about sex. He's talking about bumping uglies. He's talking about sex. He coaxes it in these glorious terms, but that's what he's talking about. When Paul Ryan is talking about freedom, he's not talking about freedom for you or the masses. He's talking about freedom for the top 1% that he serves. When Obama screams, we're helping the moderates, they're helping terrorists. The moderates are religious maniacs that want to put in Islamic rule. You're ensconced in propaganda. And right now, you have a trumpet of it. Assad did it, 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 Assad did it. Assad did it. I don't have side cameras. Assad did it. He's guilty. Shut up, you Putin puppet. Shut up. You're trying to help the terrorists. Shut up. You're trying to help Assad. Shut up. Assad did it. It's ubiquitous. It is everywhere. If you watch mainstream media, it is everywhere. CNN panels explaining to you how the moral choice is to go and murder a bunch of people in another country. How the moral choice is to say, fuck all the constitutional authority, fuck all the constitutional law. That's what they're telling the American population. That's what they're explaining to them over and over and over and over. Insipid. It's everywhere. It's insidious as all hell. It doesn't matter that the narrative they're pushing makes no logical sense. If you scream it loud enough, maybe you can get people to believe things that don't make logical sense. We're to believe that Assad, for whatever reason, even after clearing out the majority of Syria of terrorists, of winning the war with ISIS, that he would, for whatever reason, say fuck all to his own strategic influence, fuck all to his own backing in the country, meaning his own capacity to maintain status in that country, and launch a chemical weapon, knowing full well that the international communities have been chomping at the bit to get in Syria, chomping at the bit to get him out that government, and looking for a pretext. And here we are. Pretext. Here we are, pretext. They say that they know Assad did it. I don't know how they know that. Hours after the attack, he was being condemned. I don't know how we know that. The terrorists point to Assad to say Assad did it. But it makes sense for the terrorists to point to Assad because the terrorists are the ones who are trying to take down the Assad government. The terrorists are the people who we've been supporting. So it's strange, not strange at all, that the terrorists who we have been supporting points to Assad and says Assad did it. And us, being that we're supporting the terrorists, also turn around and say Assad did it. We don't need evidence. Fuck all the evidence. They did this once again, if you remember, going back to 2013. But they did this once again in 2017 when Donald Trump just attacked Syria without any evidence whatsoever. But what took place in 2013? They asserted that Assad was the culprit. No evidence. They asserted that Assad was the culprit. Despite the evidence that was coming up in the Defense Intelligence Agency saying that the terrorists themselves have access to chemical weapons, despite what came out in the New York Times saying the terrorists have access to chemical weapons, despite the reporting by Seymour Hersh saying the terrorists have access to chemical weapons. We had a political agenda, just like we had a political agenda in Iraq, just like we had a political agenda in Libya. This has nothing to do with humanitarian concerns. This is everything to do with political agendas and geopolitical influence. Where's evidence, though? Where's evidence? I understand all the propaganda. I understand what these guys want. Where's the evidence? Here's evidence. One of the UN inspectors for the 2013. The reason why I'm using 2013 is because they're using all of the other justifications that Assad did it based on this. And I'm making the point that this is not real. They don't have evidence here. This is baloney. They've asserted something and pointed to something that is baloney. It is most likely the 2013 case was done by terrorists not not Assad. Assad would have no reason to do this. And I've shown other stories, which Seymour Hersh and everyone else challenging this 2013 case, making the point, at the very least, they don't know. And not just they don't know, most likely it is not Assad. It is somewhat of a conspiracy theory to believe that that Assad would do it. It makes no logical sense. I'm not going to say it's a conspiracy theory. I'm just going to say it makes no logical sense that he would do it, especially not now after having won the war. Listen to what this woman is saying. This is not any random woman off the street. She's a UN inspector that was involved in the investigation into the 2013 case. Listen to how she says in this shocked way. I believe, and she didn't say this, but her tone and how shocked she was by this. Fact is, even her went into this thinking it was Assad. The propaganda even worked on the people who were doing the investigation. But fortunately, evidence is evidence is evidence. And she comes to a particular conclusion based on the evidence, seeing that she was actually there reviewing it. Listen to what she says.
Our investigation for crimes against humanity and war crimes, we collect some witness testimony that made to appear that some chemical weapons were used, in particular nervine gas, and what appeared on to our investigation that was used by the opponents, by the rebels, and we have no indication at all that the government, Syria, the authority of the Syria government, have used chemical weapons. Of course, now the special commission that the Secretary General put in place will investigate and tell us what it is exactly. But I was a little bit stupefied that the first indication we got, they were about the use of nervine gas by the opponent. During our...
She said she was stupefied. That's an interesting word to use in that. Why? Why was she stupefied? Why would a person be stupefied in this situation? She was stupefied because she went into this thinking that the Syrian government, not so much. She was stupefied because she was like, oh, my understanding of this wasn't necessarily right. The evidence that's coming to me is telling me that my original assertion, my original thoughts about what this was wrong. I was a bit stupefied by this. It ended up being the rebels, the moderates to terrorists. It ended up being the terrorists. Not going to keep this video long because I want these videos to be short, to the point, and to get across to people of this is bogus. This is propaganda. They're lying. They're lying. They're trying to lie you into another war. Be skeptical. Be extremely skeptical. Let's see. Also disturbing is the number of countries buying into this bullshit. Cookie Monster agreed. Skip Rock. The UK is not a United States ally. The UK is an ally of the United States. It's just, I would make the argument, it's a lapdog of the United States in a weird way. Chris Foster. My fellow Brits where I work are pretty much ostriching head in the sand, hoping for the best. Same here. Same here. There's a strange dichotomy in doing the news and having something like this with the gravity. This is not the president was banged a porn star. This is the world literally can change as we understand the world to be. What did the world look like in World War I, before World War I? What, you had the Ottoman Empire, you had these monarchs and all this other stuff. The world radically changed once it fell apart after that war. The way we understand the world, the way we organize our affairs, the way we go about doing our things can change. We bitch and moan about first world problems. If there are bombs landing on our soils, there will be a hell of a lot more than some first world problems. I make these videos. I scream about this. I bitch about this. I do video after video after video after video after video on this very particular topic. And I understand that people might get annoyed by me doing continuous on this topic. Our world can change. Like, the world can fundamentally change. What they're talking about is war on a grand scale among major powers. These so major powers happen to have access to nuclear weapons. It doesn't, believe it or not, fully the responsibility or the fault of the people who are in power in this. We ourselves allowed a system to be in place. We ourselves allowed this particular system to govern and rule our lives. And we abdicated responsibility from that system, believing like these things are jobs as opposed to these things are collective responsibility. What I mean by that is, I understand you have the president, you have senators and everything else. The fact is, this is not a job. Government is not like a job in a normal sense of a job. It is not something where you abdicate responsibility for and just leave them to fuck all. In a way that you go about your affairs at work, it's not the same way they go about their affairs. They are held accountable to all of us. If all of us take our hand off the wheel, then what are they going to do? They are philosophically bound to supposedly representing us. The moment that we say, we don't care, we put our head in the sand, they no longer need to do that. They just need to get votes. Getting votes was supposed to be the thing that held them accountable. But again, when people stick their head into the sand, it's not paying attention to what's taking place, or they're inundated with jobs and responsibilities that pull them away from that. Well, those people can do. Thing is like a Frankenstein monster getting out of hand. There's a weird dichotomy in talking to your wife and making this point that this is extraordinarily dangerous. And she's like, yeah, I had a great time at Disney World. It's an odd dichotomy. Those things do fit together. Those things are side by side with one another. But the fact that those things are side by side with one another is just kind of worrying. It's extremely worrying. I'll leave it here, man. I don't want this one to be long. And I kept this to 11 minutes, so that's fucking awesome for me. You all have a great day. I will see you guys in probably in another 20 minutes or so. So have a day of videos. All right, guys. You all have a good one. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, as always, Patreon. Thanks, guys.